Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the transfer show for Anfield Index. We are a matter of weeks away from the January window, and without doubt, there is one name that seems to be strongest link, you'd say, to Liverpool right now, isn't it? It's not a defender, it's not a DM you'd be looking for, it's a winger. It's an attacker. It's Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo. This link is red hot right now, isn't it? It just won't disappear. And we've been digging into this. We're getting even character references from people who've worked with him in the background, just to bring you a little bit special on Anfield Index. I am your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from It's Dark. I can see my breath, and my slippers ain't warm enough here in Edinburgh. So hopefully, wherever you are in the world, I doubt it, it is a little bit nicer. But we're here to talk about this link, aren't we? Antoine Semenyo, everything that's being said. And let's be honest, there's a lot that's being said at the moment. It's being said by big accounts, journalists, and other people. So let's run through it, because even in the last, what are we now? Just after 4:30. In the last half hour, 45 minutes probably, Fabrizio Romano's been on his channel, hasn't he, saying that Liverpool are keen on a potential deal to sign Antoine Semenyo. They are considering the move. So that's literally, as we say, 45 minutes or so ago. And this is on the back of the other day, Romano saying that Antoine Semenyo could be 60-70% likely to leave Bournemouth in January. A move is heating up on this one. So we're even getting bits today, this afternoon. Now, it's important to say there, because I've introduced Fabrizio Romano in that section of what's been said. He's not the first one that's gone on this. You know, we've got to be crystal clear on how this has worked so far. The person that went hardest on this, first of all, was the GOAT himself. Kalia has been tweeting about this for a while, saying Liverpool were keen, Liverpool were making inquiries, mentioned a clause. So you've got to give the GOAT his due on this. And the last one he had was, again, big information there, saying that Liverpool sporting director Richard Hughes has been in direct talks for a few months. They're clear favourites to sign him. Also mentioned in the mix, and we said this on the transfer show, was the info that we got, again, but Arsenal want Antoine Semenyo, but because of the nature of their squad and how it's built and costs, etc., can't afford it right now. And genuinely, our info for that was that they were looking at potentially selling an attacker with the likes of Trossard. Time. So yeah, there might well be a rivalry. So important to say, Fabrizio Romano mentioned it today, but just as a key update, Kalia has been the one that sort of started this train, if you want, all the way through to January. That doesn't mean it'll arrive at the station, but credit where it's due. Probably the one that a lot of people are flagging, and I've seen a few saying this, Ornstein said it, because you carry weight in that, don't you? So David Ornstein did have this in his article, on a tweet a couple of days ago, November the 17th, where he said Bournemouth may be powerless to prevent Antoine Semenyo sale in January. Crucial. The contract includes a 65 million release clause available to all clubs, but this is a key bit of detail, people. It must be triggered by a set date, so Bournemouth have got time to replace this. It applies again in summer at a lower price. So yeah, David Ornstein had a fair bit of this. And he also mentioned, it's important to say, dealings from last summer, which we'll come on to in this. Now, in terms of the clause itself, David Ornstein's mentioned that, and others. Fabrizio Romano's again said today that, and as a few have alluded to, there's a clause in the summer for a set number of days. In January, for a set number of days, and then in the summer for a lower amount. So all the reports are, as Fabrizio Romano said for Semenyo, January, it's 60 million plus 5 million in potential add-ons. In the summer, it reduces greatly that it's talking around the 50 million mark. So there's a bit to be considered there in regards to what's being said. As much as it's easy to go, oh, Bournemouth want to hold on to him, but they can't do anything about a clause. Do they? Do Bournemouth want to create this market in January a little bit, knowing that we're going to lose, a fair bit because it's going to probably go in the summer anyway? Just one to consider. But those are the big things that are being said at the moment, people. And them saying there, we need Semenyo. It's funny that, isn't there? There's a mix across the fan base, but we'll get on to that very shortly. It's also important to talk about last summer. People think, well, why are you rewinding? Now, David Ornstein mentions in his report that Spurs and Manchester United made inquiries and were looking to bid for him last summer. And actually, the suggestions are, you've probably seen reports that Spurs and United were rejected by Semenyo last summer as well. But he signed that new contract in July, the one that runs until 2029. More importantly, the one with this release clause as well. So that's an interesting one. That there's a report saying last summer that he turned down Spurs and United. Bizarrely, and we said it on the transfer show, so we can't steer away from it, our info was that Liverpool had a serious look at Semenyo in the summer and said, nah, we're not doing it. We're not going for it. So there's just a few things there now, isn't there? Liverpool did all the business that they did last summer. I mean, huge amounts of business, record churn, incomings, outgoings, however you wish to describe it. They had a look at Semenyo in the summer, but they didn't do it. And now they want to. Those are the suggestions, aren't they? Which kind of makes you think as, did we mess up? Why did we have a look in the summer, not do it? And now it seems to suggest that we're trying to do it for January and having a serious look there. Maybe it's circumstantial, naturally, isn't it? That, the Arsenal bit that we mentioned, thinking of, do we want to do this now? Possibly no. But if we don't do it right now, we're not going to be able to do it in the summer, because Arsenal or others will take advantage of that. And maybe it's an opportunity. And if you're thinking, why am I mentioning this? It's something that was discussed with myself and David Lynch on Media Matters the other day. So just in case you missed it, let's just have a listen to what was discussed on that show.
PSG come in and they're competing for Champions League positions. Who are we to say, no, you can't go? You can't fulfill your dreams. I mean, let's be honest. That's not going to quiet it, is it really? That's petrol on the fire.
Yeah, but he's just speaking kind of generally, isn't he? Again, I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to kind of see what his clause is really. I mean, that will decide everything. If it's reasonable in January, Liverpool may just take a look and say, well, this is an opportunity we can't miss, in the same way that the Gakpo one was an opportunity we can't miss. And I like drawing the parallels there, because I just think like it was the last thing that Liverpool needed at the moment to sign Gakpo. But it was like, well, it wasn't a signing for then. It was a signing, well, we can only get him at this price in this moment. Let's not wait. And because
there you go, as we discussed, the clause was a bit uncertain then, but obviously more details come out in the last sort of few days, hasn't it, around that? And now we know that. Now David Ornstein's kind of lifted the lid on the amount as well. As David Lynch said, maybe it is that almost Gakpo parallel, that you've got to get him now. Otherwise, as we know now, the amount drops. Others are in for him as well. Maybe those circumstances have just led up to this. Is all a bit strange, and the comments are flowing now as well. Nem saying there, Salah will leave next season and we'll get Semenyo. Gooch it up, saying there, yeah, it probably is because of the clause. And I'm not even going to have a go at pronouncing that one with all the numbers in, but Semenyo will make Kirkes work. There's a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings on this. And sometimes trying to be objective as in the analysis as we possibly can, you have to look at the stats and the numbers behind it a little bit. Now, weirdly, you'd sometimes talk bottom line, but they can be misleading, can't they? In terms of, official Premier League stats. Semenyo is third in the Premier League goal scorers list with 6 and joint fourth with 3 assists. So 9 contributions overall in the Premier League this season, which, as we know, doesn't always bear out in the best way. Goals and assists aren't always, funnily enough, the best indicators of what we need to know. In terms of, you look at his FB ref profiles, I'm sure many of you have done, there are things that stand out, aren't there? Blocks in the 99th percentile, aerials 1 in the 96th percentile, which again, people will say, well, is that what we want for an attacker? But you've got to see what you've got to see. Shots, interestingly, quite high in the 79th percentile, 2.76 a game, which is actually important to call a recent decrease. If you were to look at Semenyo's profile about 12 months ago, you would have called him a bit of a shot monster, but that's decreased quite a bit, it's important to say. But also there's certain things to call out, which, we've got to do stats objectively. A non-penalty XG of 0.26 in the 63rd percentile. That is quite low, people. Just be, objectively there in the stats and what we're seeing. There are things to call out either way. In terms of other stats, and there's a few people have naturally referenced Semenyo, it is good to talk about. Shout out here to Jimmy at Cube Football, who we speak about quite often. Yeah, calls out a few things on it, his stats on his grid there. So he belongs to the best wingers in terms of attacking aerial duels, shot quality, which we'll talk about shortly, shot volume, although it's important to say that has gone down there, defensive work rate, and recoveries. So when you look at those stats, he is a different type than what we have now. That is important to say. There are concerns, though, in terms of his metrics, which analysts will tell you across the board. They will say, never buy a player when he's running hot. That's what Semenyo's doing right now, isn't he? He's running hot. Will this level of return, goal and assist contributions, be the same by January? Be the same post-January into the season? I'm not so sure about that. The shot numbers, as we say, have halved as well. That, you can't get around that non-penalty XG. It really is something that you focus on. In terms of balancing the scales, because it might sound like I'm being negative, isn't it, on Antoine Semenyo? But in terms of stats, genuinely, the Premier League doesn't publish the speed, but doing a bit of digging, that his speed's recognised at 35.5 kmh, which is rapid, shit off a shovel. To give you an example, Bradley Barcola is clocked at 3.87 by UEFA in the Champions League this season. We know how rapid he is, so not much variation in that. We know Semenyo is rapid, but there's a metric we can use there. In terms of other metrics and bits, it's worth calling out. This is crucial, and shout out to Sam Maguire, because he's done a bit of a deep dive in a few elements to do with Semenyo. Some good bits for Gradient Sports that this is important to say. You might say, is it a metric? Yeah, it is important to say a guy that shoots with both feet, a two-footed finisher, absolutely crucial. Does as it says, makes it more predictable and even more of a threat. And when you look at Semenyo in terms of open play shooting, set piece shooting, pressurized shooting as well, left foot, right foot, tends to be, on the whole, not always, but above the positional average. So that is so important to call out. And we can't play this video clip, of course, because annoyingly, the Premier League will shut us down and we'll get a copyright issue. But as Sam tweeted there, Semenyo shoots with either foot and takes his shots really early. Liverpool would have absolutely targeted him during the peak Klopp years. And in fact, as one analyst, because I got the word there, pointed out to us, he does profile as a Michael Edwards attacker. Now, before you start into the Richard Hughes, we know where Michael Edwards is in the pecking order as well. So all those elements are absolutely crucial to mention. doing a bit of digging it, and to be honest, trying to really get into this from people who work with him, who will know the player as well, because everyone's got a theory as different bits, but sometimes can you get testimony from people that work from him? And there's one guy involved in S&C put to us, unbelievable preparation. I like this as a line that we got. He works his nuts off, prepares like a disciple of Mane. Oh, sorry, prepare. Again, reading this wrong here. Prepares like a disciple of Salah, and we know how good Mo Salah's prep is, but plays like a disciple of Mane. I mean, that's high praise, isn't it, to say that preparation off the field as well is that level. And probably when we mention Mane, I think it's unfair to put this label on Semenyo, but in terms of a closest comparison you could get to Sadio Mane in the Premier League, I think you'd have him there, wouldn't you? Absolutely crucial to say that. So there really is ticks in both boxes. And Sam Maguire also wrote this, and this is back in October. Maybe it's sometimes as simple as it is complicated, that profiles like a peak Michael Edwards era attacker there, the same line as we got from the analyst. A volume monster, 3 shots per 90, although that is on the decrease. It's important to mention. And he's 2-footed. Although, as someone's saying in the chat panel there, and maybe it's a fair shout, maybe he's becoming more selective, more educated in his finishing. That's something we'd like there as well. But at the time of writing this in October, a 2-footed attacker, 17 shots, 8 right foot, 8 have been left, takes them early. There's a lot that Liverpool will like there as well. In terms of other off the field bits, now you can know Arsenal are liking him as well, and Arsenal fans are trying to hype something up, and outlets, let's put it that way, will try and see different things. This is important to say, because I saw ESPN run this. I don't know if you clocked it at all. He was asked on his favourite ground he's played at, Emirates. I'm not going into the reasons. And then on the David Ornstein article, there's a lot of comments, people saying, oh, he's an Arsenal fan. I don't know, generally don't know if that's the truth. I've not got that information. But this is crucial because Arsenal fans and others have latched on to that. So always said Emirates is his favourite ground, and that quote, I'm not going into the reasons. Although, let's just play this clip. You may well recognise the player in the clip. Let's listen carefully to what's said.
Best player you've come up against?
Virgil van Dijk. Tell you what, that guy has so much presence. It's ridiculous. He's big, he's fast, smells great, by the way.
Best stadium you've played at?
Or Anfield. It was scary.
Anfield.
Like, this mental. I've just done a backflip at the cop, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got him rattled. They're clapping and celebrating, like pushing on the team even more. I'm thinking, oh my God.
Yeah. One's a quote from ESPN, which at one point it could be true, but there's nothing attributed to it. Trust me, that clip is not AI. It's been well publicised at the time. So there's Antoine Semenyo saying, toughest opponent he's come across, Virgil van Dijk. Toughest stadium he's played at, and we're seeing that with our own eyes. We're hearing it. Anfield, and talking about the cop and the crowd. It is possible that naturally he is an Arsenal. I generally don't know this off the pitch, but just in terms of the off the field stuff, be careful how much people put into that Arsenal quote. You've seen Antoine Semenyo saying that. You've heard, as we said, from other people that preparing like Salah and playing like Mane in that comparison. Strong statements we're getting. And other things off the field. And people say, well, why off the field? We know Liverpool have the no dickhead policy. I don't think you can really phrase it a different way. He's getting superb character testimonies. And just a shout out, because people ignore this. And people do ignore things off the field or personal life and how much it affects people. And we've seen that this season and this summer as well. But yeah, proposed to his girlfriend during the international break. So congratulations to him on that. But important, great character references, grounded, prepares well. All the things we're hearing, all great, eh? All absolutely great. This is still the big question, isn't it? For us, for me, for you, I'm sure, as Liverpool fans, and probably there's a little bit of whatever I say isn't going to sway you at all. Because in terms of the priorities that we have right now, I get it. There's the camp, and I'm kind of in this, that the DM, defenders, the progressive element, defensive shit, that's the priorities that we need to fix. Maybe you've got like DM, centre-back, right? However it would be. But those are, everyone's priorities. You're thinking, so why Semenyo? You might be in that camp. You might be in the camp of, fast, pacey, gives us an out ball. Maybe the build-up is just knock it over the top or play it to Semenyo, like sometimes in the old days, as Ox mentioned in that pod, when there was nothing on, get it to Sadio, he'll do something with us. Maybe that's an element, and you're in that camp, that searing pace that we don't have, attributes that we don't have. This is a great signing. You might be in that other side. You might be halfway a little bit. And I've said it before, it's like buying a conservatory when you need the roof fixed. Said that a number of times. The variations of that quote doing around, but we're not going to get into that. Where are you on that? Maybe it is just circumstantial. But in terms of the priorities, I mean, it doesn't really solve what we need now for me, or in the attacking element, and in terms of the press, which has been said as the issue, and Michael Reed talked about this on the pod the other day. Does he fix that? He can help it. There's things he does well, but priority-wise, I'm a bit unsure about this. And the question on the screen is a big one for me as well. That one there. Where does he play? Now, a few people in the chat panel saying, we can't just have Salah on the right wing. A few saying, no, he's made for our left wing. He's the Gakpo replacement. If he is the Gakpo replacement, which for me, I'm not saying I necessarily mind that, but I don't think anyone's told Arne Slot that his second son is set to be replaced. I don't think anyone's given him the heads up on that. And also, if it's the left-hand side, well, you've got Gakpo who can play it. There's many fans, probably me included, want to see Florian Wirtz given the run, and we think his best position right now would be on the left-hand side. You've got Chiesa, young Rio Ngamoa, who we're going to talk about shortly as well. And I know some of you are going to jump and say, well, he doesn't fancy Chiesa anyway. But Ekitike, people have looked at that, saying they want to see him on the left-hand side as well. How many left-sided attackers are we going to play? Is that the key to the build-up, having 5 on the left wing at the same time? So there's question marks there. The right wing as well, as people seem favourable. Well, there's no suggestion Mo Salah's going anywhere for a while. Yes, there's AFCON and that period as well, but I don't know. It's an interesting one. Maybe that's the best way I can phrase it in terms of where does he play. And mentioning Rio Ngamoa, because that also came up. Greg Evans wrote about this in The Athletic. This was a piece that came up this morning saying what happens next for Liverpool's top talents, Rio Ngamoa and Train Ione. Now, he did talk about there's a real case for Train Ione going on loan, of course, but there was a bit here about not replacing Luis Diaz and not wanting him to, do that, block his pathway. But this is maybe a big line or a paragraph. If a left-sided forward became available who was too good for Liverpool to turn down, then circumstances may change. However, that would mean blocking Ngamoa's path, something the club want to avoid. It's a bit of if, buts and maybes, I suppose, isn't it? But if Liverpool are looking to add Semenyo, as he's done for Bournemouth, played on the left and the right, that is possible. Liverpool in the summer were talking about wanting, when they were looking at Semenyo, a versatile forward that can play across the front line as well, don't they? Maybe Greg Evans has got insight. Maybe he hasn't. Who knows? But it's just an interesting line there, wasn't it? If a left side becomes available, who Liverpool thought was too good to turn down. And maybe it's the product of the circumstances right now. Maybe Liverpool, no, this isn't the priority, but it's a player they want, a player that profiles as a Michael Edwards attacker. And as David Ornstein said, there's this very small period in January where this 60 million plus 5 in add-ons is viable. It drops in the summer, but maybe in the summer others can come in. Maybe Arsenal have sold a Martinelli, a Lewis Skelly, whoever it is, to balance the books on this, and maybe that changes. Maybe it is almost a Cody Gakpo where we know it's not what we need right now, but we've got to do it. It's fascinating, isn't it? It really is. Again, if you come in late to the pod and you've just missed it, as we said, Indy Kalia was the first to really talk about this. But even now, even today, Fabrizio Romano in the last hour or so saying Liverpool are keen on a potential deal to sign Antoine Semenyo. They are considering the move. And that's on the back of David Ornstein a couple of days ago saying that there is that 65 million release clause triggered by a set date in January that's in his contract. Why he signed that new deal in the summer in July to 2029 and didn't, the moves to Spurs, the moves to United didn't happen. Nothing's certain. They're still early. We're not at January. There's a lot that can happen. But the Antoine Semenyo links a fever pitch right now, as we said. As we also said, the bits we've got in the last 24 hours, which is why we're doing the pod, the off-the-field references for him are stunning in terms of his preparation, like Salah, in terms of the character, everything about it, the physical attributes, the shot volume, even though it's gone down, there's a lot to like. But again, maybe you're still in that camp of the centre-back. Is that not priority? I get it all. We'll have to see how this one unfolds, people. I really don't know what's going to happen. It's one of those that, again, if it does happen, you can see it, but you've got questions. You're hoping it's not the only one. But it's the biggest profile or the strongest link right now. And that's why we're talking Antoine Semenyo. But on Wednesday, the 19th of November, that was a transfer show special for Anfield Index.